Hey, welcome everybody. Oh my God, Cassidy, are you impressed thinking how long we've known each other? And I have actually gotten technology set up and working. Hey, everybody. It's amazing. I know. Woo, you'll get me coding yet, sister. It's Kelly Hoey, and I am live here on Planet Hoey with Cassidy Williams. For those who don't know why I have this silly name for this program, a reader of my book, Build Your Dream Network, sent me a lovely, lovely email, and somewhere in there said that my book was worth the price of admission to Planet Hoey. So here we go, Planet Hoey, because why not? We will watch and sort of see some people come in. Look, Max, Philip, welcome, welcome, welcome. All sorts of people joining. Give a little comment when you join. Let us know where you're from, where you're coming in from, so that we can, I don't know, give you a shout out, give you a wave. I've got a few questions for Cassidy, and then we're going to jump into your questions. If for some reason in submitting questions on the YouTube comments, if I don't see it, ask it again, because that's what we're here for, to answer career and networking questions. Hello, Eva from Brussels. How cool is that? Welcome. Thanks for staying up late to hang with us. This is like amazing. So if anyone's from Seattle, give a wave, because I know that's where you are, Cassidy.
Yeah, indoors.
New York indoors. And if any, don't ask Cassidy about, listen, I know all about the keyboards. And don't ask about the keyboard. You might ask about them. If anyone's checking in from Victoria, British Columbia, since you're there on the West Coast, Cassidy, give a wave, because that's my hometown. There we go. Mexico. Fantastic. I love this. I love this. Welcome, everyone watching from the Bay Area. Great. Thanks, Max. Okay. I haven't seen my pal Cassidy in a while. We met originally at it was the AT&T developer, it was a hackathon in Silicon Valley. And then we took a crazy, God, that was the best boondoggle hackathon ever. The one from San Francisco to London.
It was on a plane. So it was a hackathon on a plane from San Francisco to London, and it was fun. It was crazy because we didn't have Wi-Fi, so it was just get as much done as you possibly can, but it was great.
Oh my God, that was awesome. We met Dr. Sue Black, who's a good friend of ours. We hung out with Craig Newmark of Craigslist. That was amazing.
Bryant, Black Girls Code, tons of people. Megan Smith, who was the CTO of the US for a while. They're just all these great people.
Yeah, and I think we just pinched ourselves that we were there. I don't know, maybe I did at least, that I was like, how did I make it on this flight? You've got a new job, kiddo. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk about your new role as developer experience engineering team person at Netlify.
Yeah. And so, and also someone said, Cassie's from Victoria. I'm not. Kelly is. So not me. Yeah, I'm in the US. But anyway, yeah, Netlify. So I'm going to be joining the developer experience engineering team, which is led by Sarah Drasner, who people who are in the JavaScript ecosystem or CSS ecosystem know Sarah very well. I'm really excited for her to be my manager because she's a core maintainer of Vue.js, and she writes for CSS Tricks, and she's done tons of workshops. She's an author. She's really, really cool. And I've never had a woman manager before, so this is very exciting for me. But yeah, I'm going to be focusing on React and kind of showing people how to build stuff with the Jamstack and React, and host things on Netlify and show off different APIs and stuff. And I'm really excited. It'll be a very different job because it's like kind of developer advocacy, but events are canceled around the world, and so it'll be a very different way of approaching the job at first. But I'm excited. It should be fun.
Awesome. Talk about a remote interview.
Yeah.
You haven't met. I know that you told me before we jumped on that they mostly have a remote team, but talk about a remote interview and some maybe reflections you have on mastering the remote interview.
Yeah. So look good from the, waist up, and then you're fine. So I'm wearing pajama pants under this. Yeah, so remote interviewing was nuts. So for those who don't know the context, unfortunately, my company React Training had to lay off all staff a few weeks ago. Was it March 20th or so? And it was a shame, but it happens. The virus led to a lot of business drying up, and so as a result, I put myself on the job market. And my former boss Ryan Florence, he was very kind and tweeted out saying like, hire these people, they're great. And I tweeted out about it too, and my DMs became a flood of all kinds of really fun opportunities that I was so grateful for. And so I kind of packed that entire next week just full of interviews, which was very busy. Honestly, it was more meetings than I've had in like the past 2 years. So it was a lot, but it was great. And so I had just lots and lots of calls with teams. Some were initial calls, and then some where I was just like, okay, I'd like to move forward and speak a bit more. And they said the same thing. And so for Netlify particularly, I ended up meeting with just every teammate I would have on my new team. And some of it was technical, and some of it was just like, how do you work with people? They made sure to all ask different questions, so there wasn't a lot of overlapping. And yeah, it worked out. It was great. And everybody on the team, they're based all over the place. One person's in London, someone's in Chicago, someone's in Denver. They're all over the place. And so it was really great getting to talk with them and knowing that this is kind of how we will be talking because it's remote. And also because, it's kind of crazy times. It was kind of nice to have these sorts of chats where, yes, it was an interview and everything, but everyone knows that everyone's going through something. So it was a good experience overall.
Well, I mean, that's probably thinking about being hired right now, and knowing that you're going into a remote team. How do they handle the remote interview? How seamless are the remote dialogues during the interview? Because that really is going to be like working with these people. And do you enjoy that experience? Knowing you're going to be working primarily remotely versus, oh, this is kind of awkward, but we're all going to be in an office together at some point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, luckily they had it because they're a very remote team already. They know what they're doing. And so that wasn't as much of a problem. What they did was they had a whole calendar set up, and they're just like, at each of these times, go to this Zoom link. And it worked out. I think there was only one call that was a little rough, but it was just because she accidentally hit record and she was like, oh, I gotta fix this. But besides that, like overall, it was fairly seamless. And I feel like that's definitely a skill to have a seamless team, team, because I've seen many remote teams both working on them and then also teaching a workshop to them or something. And once you get that in place, it's kind of smooth sailing. But if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a little chaotic and dependent on people's Wi-Fi working and stuff.
Let's go back and touch briefly on because we talked about this, how it was so sad with React Training, but talk about how your old boss handled that, because I think right now it's really important for people who are in your situation to realize that, listen, lots of people are losing their jobs. There's no shame in being in a job search, no shame in saying you've lost your job. I dealt with that question yesterday on a different interview, but also for those who are searching right now, watching how people handle this highly unusual situation with COVID-19. It says so much about company culture and whether or not you would want to work for that company in the future.
Right. Yeah. And I think Ryan and Michael, those are the two co-founders of our team. They handled it great, where we were all kind of banding together, being just like, okay, we got to try to drum up business. And we were live streaming and trying to get the word out there. And unfortunately, it just wasn't working. People's training budgets just weren't there. And those were kind of the first things cut. And even though the company had runway for like another month or two or something, they could have kept us on. But not only would we not really have much work to do, but also if, let's just say, we got no more business because it wasn't looking great, a lot of stuff dried up for the next few months. A lot of hiring freezes are happening. And so instead of keeping us on for another month and a half, 2 months, and just being just like, well, we hope, they let us go quickly. They told us, they were kind of warning us of the situation. They told us quickly, and they gave us some severance so that we could survive a little bit and do job interviews. And it was amazing and really kind of them. And I would totally work for them again someday, because I thought it was just a really great move. They tweeted about us saying, please hire these people. And it was really great of them. And yeah, it was great. They're awesome people.
Oh yeah, we did a quick. Oh, lost you there, Cassidy. There she goes.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter. Woo, technology. Maybe someone didn't like us talking about that. We're here. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're here. But your whole comment about your old boss, React Training, putting it out there on social. Let's also touch on that. You are active in the Twitter sphere, in the internet.
Very online.
Very online. Talk about the value of doing that, not just in times of need, but just talk about the value of being visible and the things you've done throughout your career to be visible.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very online. Like I've said it before, I have a newsletter that I'm pretty active with. Twitter, my Twitter's kind of blown up in the past year or so because I started making silly videos and people like that kind of thing. Who knew? I've always been like somewhat present because I talk too much. And so if you put me in a chat room, I will be the person that probably talks too much and sends too many notifications. But I think it's good because not only do you get to know people very well, but you get to help them out in some way. And you never know when someday they'll be able to help you. And I know that I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for people like you, for people in my network who helped me along the way to get where I am. And not necessarily, like, I know I've earned jobs and interviewed and worked hard and stuff, but it takes a village sometimes. I want to be able to give back to the tech community. And so that's why I run a newsletter. That's why I do live streams and podcasts when people ask. That's why I try to tweet out resources and write things down and write blog posts and stuff on occasion and do practice interviews and stuff. I think that kind of stuff is very important to put out there. And as a result, people kind of can see that and they can kind of pay it forward in a way. And then if ever I do need something, it was truly evidenced in the past few weeks. People have been so kind and being just like, okay, I might not be hiring, but I know people who are. Let me know if you need help. And it's been just wonderful. And because so many people did that, it was great. I was able to tweet and say, hey, there are more opportunities than I can even respond to. Please reply here and let me know if you're looking for a job. And that Twitter thread, I tweeted it out a week ago or something, and people are still replying to it. And employers are still saying, hey, I see that you're looking, I'm hiring, and jumping in on that. And so tech is a very fascinating world of people who genuinely do rely on other people. That's why open source exists, and that's why so many software teams need other softwares to build things. And so it doesn't have to be just about the tech. It could be about the people too, and helping people get the resources they need.
And I talk about one subject, networking, and that's such networking generosity. When people think about the give and take in a community and building community, your give for years may be a newsletter. Your give for years may be sharing insights somebody else does, lifting them up, and that's when community comes and helps you. Let's dive into some of the communities that you've had. And if anyone's just tuning in and watching, and you're watching on YouTube, let us know that you're here. Tell us where you're from. I've got a few more questions for Cassidy, and then I want to know. We both want to know what you guys want to know.
So post your questions and we'll get to them, we promise.
We'll get to them, we promise. Cassidy, talk about some of the communities, and I'm asking you to dial it way back, girl. Go back to college, go back, because I think it's important. People can say, oh, I'm going to start doing it now. You've been doing this for a while. And there's no time, the worst time to start, building a network is when you need it. The best time was yesterday. So go back to college and start from there. Between college, Grace Hopper, yes, we're going to talk mechanical keyboards. Talk about the community.
Yeah, so I feel like I try to seek some kind of community wherever I go, and so dialing it back to college, our computer science club, that was a great little group where my freshman and sophomore year was like a total of 5 people who were in a room, sometimes 10. It was a small group, and I mean, it was great. We were tight knit and it was fun, but we knew it could be more. And, sometimes 10. It was a small group, and I mean, a little feedback. We were tight knit and it was fun, but we knew it could be more. And, I'm not sure what's happening.
There we go. Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, we're back. Okay.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Anyway, so my sister, Cammie Williams, which she might be on this video or she might be on Twitter, who knows? She came to my school, Iowa State, and started studying computer science as well. And we got much more involved in campus things together. And then we got some of our friends involved. And then eventually my senior year, her sophomore year, and then amongst our friends, we kind of took over the computer science club. And we were just like, let's make this huge. And so we actively shared about it on like department-wide newsletters and in our club fests and everything, just kind of showing this is going to be a great thing. We're going to help you get a job. Like I remember we just like updated the website to just say, get a job, join computer science club and stuff. It worked. And our first meeting that we had with us running the show was about 200 people. Our room was completely packed to the brim. There was standing room only. People were sitting on the floor, but it was awesome because we were able to kind of figure out what people wanted from us and build this community. And it was such a blast. We were able to get so many people involved, and we would say, okay, who here has ever been to a hackathon? And there were like 2 of us. And I was like, okay, we're going to start the Iowa State hackathon. And we were able to say, okay, who needs interview practice? And everybody raised their hands. And so we started having regular interview practice sessions. Because there were so many technical people, we were able to get some companies to sponsor our club, and we were able to provide pizza every week. So especially for some students who didn't have a meal plan and stuff, they were able to actually eat with us, and then, to have that social aspect too. And we would have like practice speech sessions for people who wanted to get into public speaking but weren't sure how, and we did hackathons and hacking nights and homework help nights and stuff, and it was great. I loved that club. It was so fun, and it kind of showed me that I wanted to be in work like that as much as I love coding, and I'll do it no matter what because I really enjoy it. It showed me that by the time that I was working and looking for jobs and everything, I knew I didn't want to just code. I didn't want to be just a software engineer. I wanted to do something for the tech community. And so my first job out of school was at Venmo. And for those in the US, you probably know Venmo. For those out of the US, basically it's a payments application for paying each other. And it was bought by PayPal. I went to hackathons and conferences and meetups and kind of just spread the word about the Venmo API and kind of participated wherever I could. I learned a lot of lessons on how I need to learn how to say no, because I said yes to every single event that came my way. And I think there was a stint where I spoke for 14 days in a row, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I just kind of burnt out hard. But and then for pretty much every job after that, even if it was just a software engineering job of some kind, if I wasn't doing some kind of developer advocacy or evangelism or something, I was teaching workshops outside of school or volunteering at a local community center to teach kids how to code or something like that. And I really just enjoy interacting with developers a lot. And as a result, it has kind of turned into this nice little community that's existed around me, which is great. And I started a newsletter. Man, I think it was 3 years ago now. I need to actually check the date. But I started a newsletter because I was starting to make an online course. And I was just like, okay, someday I want to promote this online course and it'll be great. But I need to find out who needs help from an online course. Who would need to use this online course? This is probably someone who needs technical interviewing practice and stuff. And so I created a newsletter that I would have wanted when I was kind of getting into my career. And so it still exists, where I have links of the week, where I have an interview question of the week where people can answer it. I have a joke, things that interested me and stuff. And I think I missed sending it out on my wedding day. But besides that, I've been pretty consistent on sending out the newsletter. And
one failing, you're allowed one failing in life, and that is it.
I guess it was worth it. But anyway, that's been such a fun little community for me to be a part of, where it's actually grown a lot. And luckily, I'm starting to get some newsletter sponsors to help me pay for it, because a big newsletter does cost money and stuff. And I have a Patreon now, which is an amazing group of people. I know there's some of them on the chat right now that I'm just like, hey friends, hey Phil, hey Tom, they're really great people, and we have a Discord group that is almost too active, but it's awesome, and we just play Fortnite together and games and talk about technical things, non-technical things. We host our own little mini conferences that we call the Symposium on occasion, where we just give tech talks to each other and practice giving tech talks. And
that's so amazing.
It's so fun. Yeah. And it's not a huge group. There's a little under 100 people, I think, but it's a good enough group where you can really learn from a lot of people. And
that's one of those things. People always think these groups have to be big, but niche and vibrant and getting value can sometimes be so much more important than, I have a meetup that's got hundreds of thousands of people, as opposed to saying there is this group and this is what we do for each other. And maybe also a lesson in there that, you're not going to get everything you need for your career from one person or one group.
Right, exactly. And that is definitely my favorite corner of the internet. The people there are so great. And I've been involved with various tech groups on the internet over time. There was this group called Hackathon Hackers that still exists. I stepped down as an admin recently because it was just, I wasn't participating as much anymore, but it grew to like 60,000 people, and it was a lot. And it was just people sharing tech memes, tech jokes, tech things. There's so many corners of the internet that you can find to find your space and get to know people. And sometimes, kind of like what you said, there was like this big women in tech group that I was involved with. And there were some of us who kind of just got along in a thread, and we ended up making our own little Facebook group. And there were only like 8 of us. But whenever someone had a salary question, whenever someone was struggling with someone at work, they would just post in this little safe group of us, and we're able to give advice to each other and go on with our lives. And it was a really nice little space to do that. And so I think finding your space, both in real life, but also on the internet, is really important for developing that kind of community around you that can support you when you need it.
Yeah. And I think it's, a couple of things you hit on that are so important. Knowing when to leave, and to step down. But stepping down from a group or away from something like that doesn't lose the community. If you have contributed, if you've been the good colleague, the good team player, the contributor to an association, organization, online group, people will always want to see you, because at the time you take to build those relationships, you don't lose that. It doesn't take much to reconnect it, but you don't need to hang on, forever and ever if you're not contributing and not getting value. The second point you hit on is this niche Facebook group for any women who are watching my conversation here with Cassidy Williams is successful women have a distinctly different network structure than successful women and successful men. So successful women, what they have is they have this additional network. So when I think of you, Cassidy, you're like a poster child for this study that came out of, I think it was like the University of Chicago or Northwestern. Anyway, and they looked at women in leadership programs, and they found that successful women were central within broad networks. And I think of you exactly that. You are central in a lot of very vast, disparate leadership type networks for technology. When I think of Grace Hopper and your visibility there, the other communities you've talked about. And then now you've layered on this other thing, and it's that other thing, this little niche group of 8 women where you could go and get sort of non-public information on salaries. What's this company like to interview with? Could someone review my resume? I'm applying to this company. That is kind of the secret for successful women. They have these two distinct networks. So if there's women here, if you don't have the two networks, it's your networking advice on all of this. I'm noticing questions, Cassidy. Should we get to some of them?
Sure. Yeah,
I love this. So this is a great question. Love to mentor a new grad, but I have trouble with my own self-confidence, so I may not be senior enough. Like, when are you senior enough to?
You don't have to be senior enough at all. I would say, like, to mentor someone, you could be on the exact same level as them. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I am this person above you and I am mentoring you, my child. It doesn't have to be anything like that. I'm sure
Lord knows our mentoring relationship wasn't that way.
Yeah, not at all. It's been a lot of back and forth. And you can mentor someone who's just like one step below you too, where as long as you can give advice because you have experience that this person doesn't have, there you go. And again, a mentor-mentee relationship doesn't have to be always just the mentor gives everything to the mentee. It can be back and forth. And so you never have to be too senior to be a mentor. You can't really be too junior to be a mentor. When I was, a new grad software engineer, I would mentor students. When I was a student in college, I would mentor high school students. When I was in high school, I was helping out middle school students. Like it's something that you can always help someone in some way that you might not even realize. And sometimes it's just someone might need just an ear or some tips, and they might say, I have no idea how to go through this kind of interview process. And you can be just like, oh yeah, that's tough, but I've done it. So here's some tips. Right. And that's all you really need.
Well, so that's sort of the importance of peer mentors, like if you have solved the problem that somebody else is having today, and you just solved it last week, God, you've just made their life easier. So that's a great mentoring relationship. So, don't hesitate, start doing it, start giving back. You might learn a lot. And, as I jokingly said, in putting together this conversation with Cassidy, we'd have a fight on who's mentoring who, because this is mutual, baby. Absolutely. Absolutely. Christine had a question in terms of not feeling like she has gotten everything from her internship. What's your sort of reflect back on your internships, Cassie? Tell people the ones you had and sort of a guidance and advice on how to get the most out of it. Because, sometimes employers promise a lot in an internship and deliver very little. So sometimes it's not you, it's them. But how do you get the most out of an internship?
Yeah, well, and she also was asking, I feel like I'm behind in every internship I've been in. That's a terrible feeling. I'm sorry you feel that, but chances are you're not. That's something that, like, a company, whenever someone is just like, I got this job offer, but I don't deserve it and stuff. You got hired for a reason. Companies don't just throw job offers around and they don't just grow on job trees. You earn these things. If you, I totally just got off track there. But anyway,
getting the most out of an internship, and talk about some of the internships you had.
So I interned at a few places when I was in school. My first one was my freshman year of college through sophomore year. And that was just a part-time thing during the school year. And I was working at this small company in like the research park by my school. And I was doing like software testing for them. And I definitely it was very similar to what Kristen just said. I felt very behind in that role because everybody was doing very intense coding. And I was just like, there's a bug. Fix it and stuff. But I mean, it was work experience. My freshman year summer, I interned at General Mills. General Mills was an awesome internship because it was just so much free food. Someone pointed this out yesterday on Twitter. They gave everybody a cereal box, a Wheaties box with you on it. So I flexed my non-existent muscles to put myself on a Wheaties box and have this in this like nice case. But anyway, General Mills was great.
That is like, what did you get from that internship? You got a piece of swag that none of the rest of us will ever have.
Exactly. One of a kind.
Jealous. Yeah.
But at General Mills, it was great because that was one of those things where I also felt like I didn't fully understand everything sometimes, and I was also the only freshman intern. Every student was older than me, and so I felt like I was constantly just like, okay, I got to catch up. And in a way, it kind of pushed me because I was just like, okay, I've got to, do as well as these people who know a lot more than me. And I made some great friends there that I literally had a group chat with my intern friends yesterday. And so they're such fun people. My sophomore summer, I interned at Microsoft. And Microsoft, that was kind of being thrown into the deep end because it was my first time kind of being on the West Coast. It was just a very, very technical internship. And it was the Microsoft Explore internship where that rotates you between software engineering, PM work, and also testing work. And so you can kind of experience the whole cycle of software and decide what you like. And I learned a lot there. I went to my first hackathon there, and it kind of helps me figure out generally what I like to do. And then my junior year summer was at Intuit, and that was the summer where I met Kelly, actually, where that summer it was at Intuit and it was in the Bay Area. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to make this my summer of networking. I'm going to meet as many people as I possibly can. This is where I'll decide, do I want to be in the Bay Area? Spoiler alert, I did not. But it helps me learn just so many things about what I was looking for. And I was just like, I'm going to make my LinkedIn have so many connections. I'm going to go to a meetup every single week, if not multiple times a week. It was exhausting. I did a hackathon. I did so many hackathons that summer. It was a very chaotic summer, especially because I didn't have a car. And so it was just kind of me getting to know people and being just like, so could I get a ride? Because it was kind of before Lyft and Uber were really that big. And so I just didn't have one. But anyway, that summer it taught me a lot, and getting to know Kelly taught me a lot because I learned just the power of getting to know people and where that can take you, and how much you can learn from others. By kind of going through those steps of like the first internship of really just kind of figuring out, trying to catch up, what do I need to know and stuff. And then the second internship of more refining, okay, this is what I like. And then the third internship of networking and trying to find people who like what I like, and getting to know people in that. I didn't mean to take those steps, but it was a good set of steps for me in that. And so for internships in general, I think it's a good time to experiment and a good time to figure out what the heck do you want to do with your life and stuff. And if you don't have the opportunity for internships, you can also do that in your first few jobs. That's totally possible. I think when it comes to the whole imposter syndrome thing, first of all, I think imposter syndrome could probably be defined better as imposter experiences, because it's not so much as something that it's just a syndrome that you will feel for the rest of your life. It's instances where you're just like, dang it, I was given this project and I have no idea what to do with this. And that has happened in internships, that has happened in jobs that I've had. That's happened so many times, even in my most recent job and in my upcoming job. I'm just like, dang, I hope I am qualified for this job that I just took. It's something that kind of hits you very hard. And so as a result, you question yourself, and you kind of need that kind of sanity check. And that's where I say having a community around you is so useful, because then you can talk to people and be just like, man, I don't know if I'm smart enough for this, or I don't know if I'm good enough for this. And even just like my sister is a software engineer and she's over at Facebook. And I was telling her about how I'm kind of nervous for this new job. Like I'm really excited. The team seems so awesome, but also, I haven't been in a company that's kind of that size in a while. I'm not sure what to expect. And she was just like, read this blog post I wrote. Okay, this should be helpful for you. You know that you're going to be fine. Calm down. Just kind of having that sanity check is really, really useful. Yeah. And having people around you to do that is really helpful.
And maybe some of this imposter syndrome, and I love the way you put it, it's sort of a passing phase or moment with respect to a project, or just the desire to do a really good job, the desire to not let colleagues and teammates down, the desire not to let yourself down, as opposed to I don't belong here. Dial back again, maybe just because I want to see the cereal box again. Your intern friends,
Yes.
From General Mills. That was a few years ago.
Yeah, that was a long while ago.
Okay,
man.
So strength, Cassidy. How have you maintained those relationships with those intern friends?
I thought you were about to say, how have I maintained these biceps? And I'm just like, well, it involves a lot of nothing.
That's for an upcoming conversation, but today we'll keep it to internships, not workouts.
Yeah, but so honestly, they're just such kind people, and they're my genuine friends. It's one of those things where if something happens that reminds me of our internship days, we'll start a group text and be just like, oh, look at this. And like one of our old managers had replied to a tweet I did recently, and I was just like, wait, it's him. And I sent it to them, and we were all just kind of laughing about it. It's just one of those things where no, we don't talk very regularly. If anything, we talk once every few months, if anything. But it's one of those things that you get to, if you have these little things where you can be just like, I was thinking of you today, I'm reminded of you today. It's a good way of kind of maintaining a relationship where it might not be the deepest thing in the world, but it's really nice to have. And those people, I care about them so much, and they're so great. And if I could have them all in a room and we could just hang out, I would love that. But we live all on different areas of the planet, and so that's just not something that'll happen anytime soon. So having those little moments where you can just message each other, ask if they're doing all right, and then leaving it be. I think that's a great way to maintain things, and you don't have to have incredibly deep friendships to have friendships and have connections with people. Sometimes it's just checking in and being just like, thinking of you, hope you're well, and leaving it at that.
Well, studies out of the, gosh, Cassidy, you could just pay you to read my, pay you to, recite my advice that I always dish out on networking. But there's studies out of, I think it's the University of Kansas, how it is so much easier to ignite a former relationship or keep an old relationship warm because of the number of hours it takes to build a friendship. So while you are going through your career, the folks watching this, build those, like engage with your colleagues, have the lunches with them when we're back working in an office, or take a virtual lunch with them, take an interest in their lives more than just, handing off the work, because those are relationships that are going to fulfill you and help you throughout your career. And once you're not working together, a little happy birthday, as Cassie said, you see an old manager retweeting you, send that along. That maintains those connections and maintains them in a powerful way. If anyone else has got questions, I love Michelle, loved your take on imposter experiences. I love that. Who else has got, if you've got questions or things, for Cassidy on jobs, networking, careers in tech. Talk a little bit about putting yourself forward, Cassidy, because I know things like Grace Hopper, others, you've put yourself forward to be nominated. Talk about that and put yourself forward to get involved. Talk about the importance of doing that.
Yeah, so that's one of those things where you can very easily go overboard with this, and I needed to learn how to say no. But whenever I see an opportunity where I'm just like, that could be good for my resume, or that could be good for someone I know, or that could be something that could lead to something cool, I almost always do it. Even if it involves filling out a survey or writing some kind of application or being on a bunch of calls. Again, it's very easy to go overboard with it because I have done that and I know what it's like. But it's really, really great to have opportunities that sometimes they're not given to you or offered to you. It's just something where you're on a forum and you're just like, that looks interesting, I'll check that out. And you end up applying, and it could be something amazing. And so many things that I've done have been me just like applying by chance, and then it turns into something huge. I'm involved with the National Center for Women in IT. And I honestly applied for their award program on a whim and during my AP computer science class in high school, where I was just like, oh, there's a little scholarship thing. I need a scholarship for college. I'll just apply for that. And then it ended up being this whole whirlwind thing where I got connected with their community. I've made friends who have been to my wedding, such close friends through that program. I went with them to the White House to speak there. I went with them to Grace Hopper. They were the ones who connected me on that flight hackathon where you and I were on the same team. Being involved with them was something where I was truly just like, this could be a good opportunity. I'm going to try it. And then it turned into something amazing. And I've been able to talk with so many students who are doing well. Fellow NC Witter here. Hey, nice. Hey, smile. But NC Wit has been such a great community for me. And there's so many places out there where you don't know what it could be. If you see that there's a community that you can be involved with, check it out, because you never know what it could result with. There was one where it was actually during one of my job interviews recently in the past couple weeks, where they're just like, oh, by the way, there's this nice little group that I'm a part of where we play Fortnite sometimes and talk about tech. Would you want to join it? I'm just like, yeah, sure. And it's great. And there's so many blog posts on there that I've been just eating up, because it's very relevant information that I had no idea existed. And it's been great. And I spoke at a conference last year in Chicago, and there was a person there who liked my jokes, and we just started talking about puns. And then at one point he said, there's this Slack group that I'm a part of that I think you'd really like. And now I'm so active in this Slack group, and we share puns, we talk about code, we help each other with bugs, we share Stack Overflow questions so that we can try to get assistance. And you never know when you're talking with people or what groups you might find, what they could turn into. And so maybe don't say yes to everything, because again, it's very easy to say yes to everything and then just burn out from too much social overload. But it's a great way to get to know people, especially online, especially during times like these where we're all kind of indoors. There's so many online groups that are so much more precious to me, because I can still interact with them even though we're all indoors together in our separate homes.
Yeah, you build those relationships, and test things out, because sometimes you find out the dynamics of a community. Kind of by saying yes to everything, you can start filtering out of where the value is and what you're enjoying. There's a great question here. What advice would you give yourself from when you got started? As go back, dial it back, Cassidy. What advice would you have for your starting out self?
I would say stay ambitious, but be patient. Because when I first started out, I was very much like, I'm going to be the VP of engineering of this company. And I was just like, I was a child, but I was very convinced. I was just like, if I keep working hard enough, I'm going to get this. And there was a point that was very humbling where someone was just like, how old are you? And I was just like, I'm 22. They're just like, okay, get to know these technologies first. And he just gave me like a whole list of things. And as I was starting to learn stuff and was just very like, I'm going to do this, I realized, there's a reason why people have experience and are high up in companies and have experience. and it's something that it was a wake-up call, but it was a good thing where like, I think that staying ambitious helped, because again, PayPal bought Venmo in my first job, and there were kind of rumors that the API was going to be cut and my role would be less relevant. And so I ended up switching over to a company, Clarify, which Matt, the founder of Clarify, and they had me lead developer relations there. And so even though it wasn't, like VP of engineering at this company, it was a step up and gave me a lot of room to grow. And I was able to see like, okay, as great as this role is, I need to mature a little bit, learn what is needed in this kind of lead role, figure out what it means to really manage and do that sort of thing. And then kind of same thing as I've gone step by step in my career throughout different jobs and stuff. I think the more you know, it's that phrase, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. There's like a graph where just like when you are a junior engineer, you're just like, I can do anything. And then you kind of go into this deep pit of, I know nothing, as you are a mid-engineer. And then as you get a little bit more experience, you're like, I know a few little things. I don't know as much as I think I know. I'm pretty good at this thing. And it's kind of like a slow gradient. And I'm finally on that slow gradient thing where like, I know what I'm doing. I could use more experience before I go for roles like this or do things like that. But I think that having ambition, but still being patient, that you're not going to be in charge of this big thing right away. You need to not necessarily wait in line, because I don't really like that phrase, but you need to figure out how to develop yourself so that way you can be successful in roles later. And having a community, having mentors, having people who can give you wake-up calls are really useful, where you can say, okay, I know what I need to learn now, so that way I can get to that next step in the next role.
I know I wish I'd had more patience with my career in my 20s, because I was watching other people and thinking that their careers were advancing faster than mine. And I think I would have taken more from a lot of the opportunities presented to me in my 20s if I just kind of said, you know what, my career is going to unfold as it should for me. And I don't have to live up to anybody else's expectation of doing this by, a certain age. Right. I love your graph. So I will give you the perspective of age, because in your 20s, you think you know everything. You get in your 30s and you're like, I don't know everything. You get your 40s, you're like, I really don't know anything. And then you get to your 50s and you're like, I don't know everything. And I don't effing care that I don't know anything. So, and this is a really good spot to be, but you know that you can survive it, you can navigate it, you can figure it out. And that probably adds to confidence, because, you live through a whole lot of things. All right, let's go. This is a good one. Hey, bad at software. Which part, Dominica, what part of the software engineering interviews, is there any particular bit, Cassidy, have you ever had an interview you thought, oh God, I could have handled this better? And what was it about it that you were like, I messed this up?
Oh, I have had so many. Let's go back. No, I am very much of the opinion that tech interviewing is broken. Like, I think like telling someone to write an algorithm on a whiteboard isn't necessarily indicative of how they work. But that's the way interviews are right now, which sucks, but that's how it is. One time I had this interview with EA Games. I shouldn't have said the company name. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, we just bleeded it out.
Yeah, it's fine. It was a bad interview for me. They were fine. Basically, I told them that I really wanted to do some kind of front-end work, and it was great. And I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. And the interviewer didn't fully understand, or the recruiter didn't fully understand what that meant. And so she put me on an interview with a team that was like kernel level coding, like as low level as it can get. I didn't know that going into the interview. And so we started chatting. And like, I know my fair share of algorithms and stuff, but as we were chatting and stuff, I was just like, they said, so what do you know about our team? And I was just like, well, I know you're related to front end. And they just started laughing. And I was like, oh no. And then
that's the recruiter, recruiters have a responsibility to get these things right. And maybe this is another thing where networks and communities could be helpful. Like, who are technical recruiters who know tech, as opposed to someone just looking to funnel people into tech jobs, if that makes sense. But Dominica's question, the whiteboarding, any tips on mastering that whiteboarding part?
Yeah. So really quick with this past interview, long story short, as they were asking me really low-level coding questions, there was a point where I just cut myself off and I was like, this isn't going well, is it? And they said, no. And then we just hung up, and that was it. And it was mortifying. Anyway, bad interviews all around. Whiteboarding sucks. Here's generally what I say what you should do. Definitely go through things like LeetCode, HackerRank, those kind of things to get the algorithms done. Again, my newsletter, which we've linked in here, I try to put relevant interview questions every week so that we can get that practice going. Whenever you have a whiteboarding question, before writing anything on the whiteboard, talk through what you're thinking. So if the interviewer is just like, okay, I want you to create an API for Battleship where the functions are like hit, has been hit, and miss. And you need to implement those functions. You need a data structure for the Battleship board, something like that. Before actually writing anything down, just say, okay, just talk it out and say, okay, if I need something for Battleship and I need to write these functions, that means the data structure should be something where I can have immediate access to things in this grid. So maybe I could do some kind of hash table, matrix, 2D array, I don't know, come up with something. And then from there kind of say, okay, if I want to do has been hit, that means each of the nodes in this Battleship board, they need to have some kind of toggle if it's been hit or not. If it's miss, then I need to have some kind of way of determining when I've shot something, if I've hit it or if I've missed it, kind of talk out that sort of stuff with them. And as you are doing that, kind of say, does that make sense? Do you think I'm on the right track? Turn it into a dialogue as much as possible. And then once the interviewer is just like, what you're saying makes sense. Okay, good. That's when you start actually writing your answer on the whiteboard. Because then even if you're starting to write something kind of incorrect or you get stuck, you can say to the interviewer and you could be just like, we just talked about this. What was I saying before? And have that conversation and then get back to writing. Because then they can see your thought process more than the actual code that you're writing on the board. And that helps significantly. Because for some companies, like the Googles and those really big ones out there, they just write down what they see on the whiteboard and that's it. But for pretty much every other company out there, they care a lot more about your thought process. And so when you talk out your thought process with them, even if your code is incorrect, they at least know how you think and they can see that you communicate as a developer and that you know how to communicate about these certain things. And even if you're not sure about your answer and you're just like, man, I am not sure how to go about this. Would this be better as a loop or with recursion? I'm not sure. As you're thinking about that, you can show vulnerability a little bit and the interviewers appreciate that. They're human, believe it or not. But also companies want you to succeed. When they've brought you onto onsite, they're not just like, all right, this is the final frontier. We're gonna change it. They have spent a lot of money for you to come on site. Even if it's a local company where you're going on site and they're not flying you out or something, when you go on site, they are spending engineering resource time to do this chat with you. They might be buying your lunch. They might be doing all sorts of things. They're spending time and energy to recruit you. And so they want you to succeed. They're not going to try to break you. They genuinely do want to help. And so if you think of it that way, it's a much less intimidating way of going about interviews, but it's also leads to a much more success because you're in the right mental state to go through the interview and you're communicating a lot more with your interviewer. So that is the advice I can give you for whiteboarding for sure.
That is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just keeping an eye on the time, and I did notice a question on here, and part of me wants to answer some of this, and then I want you to jump in too, Cassidy. But in terms of when I think of Cassidy and how she has been successful, here is someone who has really worked on her skill set. And the putting herself out there, she's not just networking for networking sake. She's building relationships. She's giving back to community. She's creating community. And she does that in a variety of places, whether it was back in college and creating this computer science club to how you engage now. So I think you got to put it in that context. It's not like all of a sudden like, oh my God, if I put up a social media account and get out there. But Cassidy, that's me on the outside observing you. But your thoughts and what are the things that you think are kind of contributing to your success today?
Yeah, so I think getting started with social media things, there are a lot of people who are just like, oh, I don't want to get active on Twitter. There's trolls there. It's true. But when I was first getting on Twitter, when I was first posting in various places, I was truly just using them as bookmarks where I was just like, this is an interesting link I want to come back to. I'm going to tweet it. And over time, people were just like, oh, you share some pretty good links. And I was like, thanks. Slowly, as you continue sharing resources, you can start sharing opinions. And you can start saying like, I liked this article because I like this opinion, but I don't really like doing CSS this way or writing this framework or something like that. And I'm not saying you can't have opinions before then, but as you start doing that, that's where you can be a little bit more comfortable in sharing your opinions. That's kind of how I followed that train of thought, where I was just like, okay, I might not necessarily know what I'm talking about at this point on social media, but I can share what other people are sharing. And then after a while, when I have more experience with it, I can be just like, I liked what they had to say, or I disagree with this article. And then eventually you just become a person who knows things, and people will like to hear what you have to say. I think courage doesn't, well, I guess courage has some aspect of it, but I think vulnerability is the key there. You need to be willing to admit what you don't know. There's this great hashtag called 100 Days of Code, where on 100 Days of Code, you basically just say, this is what I'm working on this day. This is what I'm working on this day. And sometimes it's people who are learning to code from the very beginning. And then sometimes it's people who have a ton of experience, but they explain a lot. They basically just say, this is what I did today. This is what I did today. And that little community there is great because it's so many people being vulnerable that they're just like, oh, awesome, you can do it, or I learned that too, here's this article I found helpful. And it's a great way to get to know people. And so I think I think kind of putting yourself out there, it's a necessary evil sometimes, when not that it's evil, but it's a necessary thing that people don't always like to do, but it is a great way for building a community around you that can help you in your career.
Yeah. We need community, as we're all realizing more than ever. I'm just looking at the time, realizing you've got a full day. If anyone else has got an urgent question for me to ask Cassidy Williams.
Ryan Florence commented, this is why I'm self-employed. For the record, that's my old boss who I was just complimenting earlier.
Yeah, we were giving you a shout out, Ryan. Everyone, yay, Ryan! People handling, tough situations in extraordinary ways. Thank you, sir. So, anyone else got questions for my friend Cassidy Williams, software developer, software engineer, developer advocate, overall extraordinary. What keyboard are you using? Maybe I should just ask that.
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, with that mechanical keyboard.
I'm just going to unplug it from my computer. This is a wooden board that I built. It's a camping themed board. It's got a little compass there and everything. You might notice my Michelle Obama on my jacket too. She's with me, protecting me. Awesome. But anyway, this is my current keyboard of the day. But I've got an Atrius back here. This one is a funky one because it's like a split board, but it's a funky shape.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Very cool.
I've got a few boards. You're going to regret asking me this, Kelly.
No, I'm not, because I watch your Twitter stream and I'm always impressed. Oh, yeah.
This one, I love this one. This one I think just looks so classy.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. What was the one you tweeted somebody's that was like a horoscope?
Oh, those are Astrala keys. That's a keycap set I designed actually with a gal whose handle is Sailor HG or Sailor Mercury. So we designed those keycaps together, and they're finally being shipped to people. It's very exciting.
Awesome. And your first one was a Scrabble theme one, am I not?
Yes, and I don't have a board with them right now because I'm working on designing one. But I got Hasbro to license and sell Scrabble themed keycaps, which was pretty fun.
That is so cool.
That like is a 3D printed board, which was pretty fun, and I laser cut the plate for it. This one is a pretty funky one.
How many boards do you have? And someone's had a question: how much do you spend on boards? No, you are actually making these boards and you're selling them, right?
No, these are just for me. This is
so my obsession with shoes is your obsession with keyboards. So I don't want to know how much you spend on it, because as long as you make it happen, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I love them. They're just my boards. I laser cut the case for this one. This is the other half of it is over there. I've spent money. But the reason why I actually got into designing keycaps was because I was just like, keyboards are expensive, but if I design parts for keyboards, then I could get them for free. And so that's how I kind of got into the idea of designing stuff. And now I just have a lot of keyboard things, but it's fun. And it's a great hobby, and I don't spend money on a lot of things. And so keyboards are.
Yeah. Well, I was having a conversation earlier over on Twitter, and my Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Build Your Dream Network virtual water cooler with a startup founder who is really, I want to say she's doubled down on her baking and cooking now that and sharing her recipes with her kids. The importance of having something tactile to do right now, and not just staring at our computer screens of whatever size. So yeah.
Yeah. I finished a Kickstarter project recently for designing Go boards for the game Go, and my materials were just delivered. So this pile right here are all the parts that I have to laser cut here and here.
Okay, what's the drill for?
That was, that Dalgona coffee, like the whipped coffee. It doesn't make sense as I mentioned that with the drill. Basically, it's like that really whipped coffee stuff. We didn't have an electric whisk, and so we put a regular whisk in the drill and used the drill.
It works like a charm.
It got the job done.
Listen, you gotta hack these things, but don't use your kitchen whisker thing to try and drill. That doesn't work the other way. Only works one way.
And I also want to show off my jacket a little bit. I designed this jacket, and so I've got Michelle Obama in the corner here, and then I've got a trumpet, and then I've got pizza, and on
what platform did you design the jacket?
It's called Print All Over Me. And there's like a trumpet and a euphonium exploding into flames and hearts, and Tina Fey is down here too.
Awesome. And I'm on the back, right? That's why you're not going to turn around?
Of course. Yeah, I just can't turn around. Sorry, I'm just so hooked up. But don't worry, you're there.
I know. Oh, Christine asked, do you plan to sell your keyboard designs? Haha, I would definitely buy that. You do have sold them, right?
So yeah, I've sold the Scrabble keycap stuff. I've sold Astrala keys. If you go to the website pimpmykeyboard.com, I have a keycap set called DSS Tekla, which those are the keycaps that are on here. It's a mix and match keycap set, so you can get blue or red. If you notice, I have Vim keys for this one right here.
Yeah. What's the website again?
Pimpmykeyboard.com.
Pimp My Keyboard. There we go. I thought that's what I heard. I just wanted that repeated.
It is true.
People in the back. There we go.
But I'm working on some other ones that will, go live eventually. And I also want to sell Scrabble again, but our contact at Hasbro left. So should have built a stronger network there. We're working on getting those so that way we can manufacture them again and re-get a license for that. But
that's awesome. Awesome. All right, Cassidy, my friend, it is always a pleasure to see you in whatever platform and format. Thank you for, this is why you're successful. You are generous, you are kind, you are vulnerable, you share it all, you don't edit. You're so interested in helping other people succeed, and I appreciate you so much for that. So good to see you, and hope we can do this again.
Yeah, till next time. Stay clean, wash your hands, be indoors, get your hand sanitizer. Don't touch your face.
Okay. Right. Stay well, everybody. The resources were in the chat. I'll also tweet them out, and see you again soon. Thank you.
Bye.